become human again on the internet. And many people, myself included, we believe that we're building crypto, a human internet, once again. People may have heard of that internet theory, all these different things where you don't even know if it's a bot or a human you're talking to. And one of the promises of decentralized social and the talk of this panel is like how on-chain social can make us more connected, feel more human. So without further ado, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Niko from Uniswap, who's chatting with Tike from Noice, Colin from Ponder, and of course Ted from Farcaster. So I'll leave you to it, Niko. There you go.
Hello. Okay, sick. So what's interesting about this panel, like, gonna keep it really conversational. Like, the reason why I kind of want to throw this together is I think the buzzword this cycle, and really like most cycles, but especially this one, especially with like the rise of like DeFi, has been like attention, right? And I think the question has always been like, is attention all you need? And I think time and time again, we found that it really isn't, and that's only one part of the social equation. And I think through all this like failure and trial and error, like we've been led to this place to find out what the second part of the equation is in that. And it's a bit opinionated, but it's my belief that that's connection, right? Like building things that are like worth like gathering around. And so the goal of this panel is kind of just to show how on-chain social is really uniquely positioned to account for both sides of the social equation. And so, yeah, so very, very excited to talk to everyone here. I kind of want to start with Ted first. Ted is like the absolute GOAT. Works at Farcaster. We've said on-chain social a lot. That's in and of itself like a buzzword too, I would say. How would you define on-chain social?
Good question. I feel like there's been multiple iterations going from like decentralized social to social-fi, and I feel like on-chain social sits somewhere in between, where every user owns their identity. So they own their account, they own their social graph, all of that content is theirs, no one can take it away from them, it's interoperable, and they can take it from app to app to app. The next part of on-chain social is obviously wallets. So whether it's a built-in wallet or you can connect to different wallet, you are able to bring kind of assets with you, whether it's kind of like coins or NFTs, that can all come with you, so you're able to transact, kind of exchange value on chain with the people in your social graph. And then I think the last part is that it's open and it's permissionless, so anybody can build on top of it, meaning, okay, if you are building one experience here, let's say, I think we have two great examples of two very different experiences built on top of the social graph that leverage a user owning their identity, and then also each user having a wallet for multiple wallets.
Yeah, so that's really good. But I remember my first job outside of college, I was like writing copy, and we were like doing some like go-to-market for some like brand. And I remember I was like showing my boss the copy, and I was like, this brand has like this feature, that feature, this feature. And my boss was just like, dude, like, users do not care about features, they care about benefits. They care about how these features like make them feel. So like that being said, it's like, how is on-chain social, like, obviously those things unlock a lot of things, like what are we seeing actually happen like with users that are actually participating?
I actually want to toss it to both of them, because I think the one unique thing that kind of on-chain social unlocks is the ability to earn and like, again, exchange value among your friends. And I think both Ponder and Noice are two great examples of that, that you can't necessarily get anywhere else. It's like a magic moment for users to be like, wait, what? I can just like participate and actually get value for the value that I'm putting in. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole range of new kind of experiences that you can develop, right? You have finance on one side, you've got friends on another side, a little bit of degen kind of sprinkled in here and there, right? But there's a way that you can kind of approach users that's very natural within their timelines and within their feeds with your app or with your experience. You can't really do on other apps. I mean, I think people remember sort of Twitter and Facebook when they had mini apps and Zynga was there, and there was all of this kind of it was kind of right for experiences to be built within the context of social, and then just got ripped away, right? And Ted mentioned that you can't really do that with Farcaster because the protocol is decentralized. But there's kind of a magic there to having the experience exist alongside people chatting to each other, and sort of like making real life bonds, something that happens often on Farcaster. So when you're building an app and you have all these different sort of like social capabilities and then on-chain capabilities merged into one place, you're going to get outcomes that are like net unique. You're going to get things like Flanker where people are just like randomly making tokens that are connected to me, create things like Bracky, where people are just like talking to an AI bot to make bets online, right? It's just like happening automatically. And these are the kind of things that like you would never imagine occurring on like Twitter or Facebook, because you just don't have that open layer, and you don't have the ability to sort of transact alongside social.
Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like the cool thing about like, permissionless technology is like, in a way, it's kind of like the ultimate catalyst for like two-way conversations and like community engagement. And when you use something like Twitter, and I don't know if like crypto Twitter is like, if crypto is always going to be on Twitter, I'm kind of curious to see how things evolve. But like, obviously, like Ted, like when you talk to like builders that want to launch something, and you're just like, here's why you should launch on Farcaster, and like, or like, you should have your GTM on Farcaster and like not on Twitter. Like, you kind of like lead with like these things about how, because of the permissionless technology and building the protocol, it unlocks a lot of these experiences, and kind of like, what are some of the reactions you get from those people?
Yeah. Well, first, we never discourage anyone from launching on Twitter. Like, we're always like, do both, because we don't have the distribution that Twitter does. But what we do have is a social graph and social reputation. And so you can say like, hey, if you go launch on Farcaster and this is part of your go-to-market, then you are able to say like, okay, you can see exactly which users are using your app. You can contact them because you'll be able to direct message them, see what they're using, see how many, like, are they a whale? Are they, like, you can pretty much build like different demographics or different targeted cohorts from it. And then you can iterate really quickly because you're getting like real-time feedback. You'll see it used in the feed. You'll see all the questions right there. And a lot of it, like, you can't get that on Twitter because a lot of times, unless you do sign up with Twitter, the account and like the user are very distracted. And so I think that's what people get really excited about is like, okay, I can find like my first 1,000 like high quality users on Farcaster.
Yeah, that's a good point. TK, I'm gonna get to you, but I do want to ask Colin one more question. Like, so obviously, like, you're talking about a lot of these experiences and stuff. Like, what are some of like some interesting social dynamics that are kind of emerging out of Ponder because of everything that Ted just said?
Well, so one of the cool things that's happening within Ponder actually is, so we have comments underneath the Ponders that are separate from the Farcaster network. So you have this public feed, and people are willing to say certain things in their public feed, right? I mean, there's pseudonymity, some people are willing to say pretty much anything, shout out random error, but other people are a little bit more limited in the kind of things that they're willing to talk about. If you build a mini app, you can then have these sort of like, closet style, or like, you're tucked away in the corner experiences where people are willing to say things that like they're probably not willing to say out of the timeline, because they think it won't necessarily represent them positively there, but it will within the mini app. So that's a net new dynamic. I don't know that we've seen in many mini apps yet, but it's starting to emerge really aggressively now on Ponder. We also, when people win, they're able to just share their winnings with the feed. A lot of apps do this, right? Do something that's fun and also, tell people about it. There's a share button, right? And it's like all the time you want to have a share button in your mini app, and then the conversation crosses over into sort of, the main line, where people are spending way too many hours per day, myself included, and you can regain their attention. So there are these sort of loops. There's both the sort of enclave that you can create within your mini app, but then there's the loop, because there's so much surface area that's given to developers, because you have these embedded images and these embedded experiences in the timeline as well. There's so much surface area to like go back and forth between your app and the people where they're spending all their time. And that's a crazy powerful thing too, especially when you have notifications. On top of that, like the number of people that we have come back every day because of notifications is in the thousands for sure. And messages that are also built into the protocol. So there are just a million different ways. Sometimes it's almost overwhelming as a developer. When you think about the ways that you can have social dynamics kind of be impacted by the decentralization of the protocol.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna kick this off to you, TK, as well. Like, so obviously, also, I was talking to a buddy and I was like, yeah, we're gonna TK from Noice, and he was like, oh no, you gotta say it with more emphasis, like Noice. He was like getting on me, and I was like, so I'm curious, like, how would you pronounce it? What's the correct amount of emphasis?
Whatever suits you, honestly, but again, I mean, we just say it's just noise.
Noise. Okay. Very nice. Okay. So for those of you that don't know, Noice essentially like makes every interaction like a like, a comment, a follow, typical with USDC or other tokens. Kind of curious, TK, like how have you seen like obviously what's been enabled through Noice? Like how have you kind of seen this foster like deeper connection with like other social platforms?
Right. I mean, the number one answer to this is you have peer-to-peer money payments, right? So like I can just send you money without having to think that I'm sending you money. Or any token that I believe in, right? Like whatever I think you might appreciate or I appreciate, we found a way for you to like just send like super small, like $1, half a dollar, or hundreds of dollars to your community right from the feed without ever having to like approve a transaction or send money. Right? So like inherently, like for the last 15 years has been swap, approve, accept, confirm, all of that. Like for us, everything is just so programmatic that on an average, one Noice user is tipping 10 times a day and 300 times a month. Right? Like the 1.5 million tips we've done have come from just 5,000 people. So like, it's quite interesting to think about like, look, like once you just set it up, you don't have to like think of it again. And you can just continuously like send people whatever you want to like send. It's your community, maybe you're tipping creators whose content you enjoy. There's so many dynamics, like there's so many ways people are using it. Like some people are trying to get discovered, some people are trying to like push their community or channel or their token a little higher with like, marketing campaigns. And me, for example, I'm just like trying to appreciate anybody who's saying something nice. Right? So, there's just so many ways, and we're still discovering that day in day out.
Yeah, I feel like a theme that we're hitting on is like by having like an open social graph, you really unlock kind of a lot of the community flywheels. And like just what Tike was just saying like about how like everyone is basically there's so many power users and everyone's like super engaged. And that's enabled by the tech, right, inherently. So I mean, through that though, like I'm kind of curious, like specifically on Noice, like what behaviors have you started to see from users?
I mean, again, users is like incredibly wide and vague. The great part about Noice is you can use it in a way where it suits you. As I said, if I have my own token, I have a way to incentivize my community a lot just with content, like whatever's landing on the feed. If I'm just like an average, like I'm earning say $5 of tips every week from people, I'm just giving it out back to anybody I'm engaging with. You're just seeing like a lot of ways, but I think what we are incredibly excited about is generally like just like what happens when trillions of likes on the internet are moving some crypto on chain, right? Like, so that's the way I think of like Noice is like how can I embed myself to every social interaction happening across all open social graphs. Farcaster is like the best place as of today. But like when you start thinking like, look, likes are behavior like trillions of like, there's just like every human alive knows what likes are. So my market is like 6 billion people. And then the reason I'm betting on open social is because we have to go from like say 10 million to the next billion. And all of a sudden, even like to be honest, like whether it's Pond or Noice or all the mini app devs, none of us have scratched the surface as to like what is possible on the consumer side of like mini apps and wallets and how money can move. And I'm telling you, like, we're just scratching the surface. Like there is so much that's packed inside. Like you can buy distribution from feed, you can tip people, you can. There are pay-per-view concepts. There are ideas of like getting advice for $50. There's just so many primitives that are possible. I think like we're working on it.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, I think that if you look at other social apps, nobody's actually been able to like implement the tipping feature except if it was a live stream. Like nobody's ever been able to do that. It just doesn't work, it doesn't scale. I don't know if it's because people usually have to upload like their own money, and in Farcaster it's just like money's kind of like floating around and a lot of people get it. But I think it's so interesting is like once you just put it behind the scenes, people can like just instantly upload, set it and forget it, and then feel like, oh, I'm rewarding all these people. And then when you go into your wallet, you can see the list of activity. You can actually like see all the profile pictures and like the names of everyone who's tipped you. And so I feel like that is a different, like you don't have to go to like, I feel like on TikTok or on all these other things, you have to go to like this weird accounting site and like you can't instantly click to see who these people are. And then Farcaster, because it's open social graph, like as soon as I can say like, oh, Colin tips me and like click into his profile and learn all about him as somebody who follows me or enjoys my content. And I feel we don't really have like at-scale creators yet on Farcaster, but you can see how that is something very, very compelling to creators who are looking to build sustainable communities that are much more enduring than just like flashes in the camp.
The reason why like, tipping in general hasn't worked at all and why it will work with Farcaster in the best way possible is because of what do you think are like rental transaction costs. Like, even when I'm getting a cab, I was just telling my friends the other day that, like the double click and pay and the face scan sometimes can be too much of a friction, right? Like, if you ask me to do it like 20 times a day, I probably might not enjoy it. The reason why the velocity of money that's moving on Farcaster is obnoxiously high by Noice is because you don't have to like approve or like, you just don't see it. It's all like, it's invisible. And that's like that programmatic part, which like thankfully is possible because of Farcaster wallets, wasn't possible a year ago. Is I think the biggest breakthrough like open social for me is the fact that everybody now has a wallet. Now what are you going to do in a way where they're earning, spending, doing everything without them realizing it very strongly? Like how do you make them experience it rather than like manually try to be a part of it?
Yeah, so like in a way, like all these value propositions kind of combine to create like this incredible amount of abstraction in ways that empowers like both creators but then also users. So like this is kind of a dumb question, but like why aren't traditional social apps, like why don't they have an open social graph?
That's a good question.
It sounds like you can make a lot more money by not having it be open, would be my guess. I mean, there's a lot of money that gets paid from advertisers to social networks, right? I mean, like when Facebook and Twitter shut off their APIs, it's specifically because they see other people like, again, Zynga as one example, who are making billions of dollars utilizing their platform and the distribution that's inherent in their platform, and they just want to control that, right? I mean, you can make a lot more money controlling that. You're not necessarily just going to put it out to the world. I think Dan made a bet that he would attract a lot more developers and that there would be a much broader ecosystem with apps that are actually flourishing by diminishing the amount of control that they have over the platform. But yeah, I'm sure it sounds like Twitter's bringing wallets back, and I don't know if the identity piece, the follower graph, is going to be as accessible, which is I think critical to build it. But Farcaster does.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's like their bread and butter. A lot of any at-scale social app monetizes through advertisement, and the way that they can charge advertising dollars is because they sell them the social data. And so if you give that up, then you lose your revenue streams or you leak out value from that. So I don't know if Twitter will open it up, but it'll be interesting to see what like Threads does. I know Blue Sky has said they don't want to go down the advertising route, but they also have open socials. So we'll see.
Do you think you all will go that route if you had like 10 million active users every month?
Good question for Dan.
Okay.
So like I feel like in a way it's like kind of like crypto is front running traditional social in a way, right? And until they realize like why it's important, why it's compelling, like I think there's like obviously like an arm there, right? Like that's Farcaster, like that's one of Farcaster's really like interesting value propositions. That being said, like I'm kind of curious for actually this is a question for you, Colin. You know, you talked about social graphs and how it's kind of creating like conversations and two-way conversations between users and like there's a lot more engagement. Like, what do you think? Who are the communities that you think would resonate most with something like Ponder?
People who are curious generally, who are like highly interested in different topics. So you care a lot about sports, you care a lot about TV shows, you care a lot about politics. Sometimes we get questions. We've had probably too many questions about Iran and Israel over the past week.
But is anyone watching Love Island? No. Okay. Yes. Okay. I think something like Love Island is like perfect for Ponder.
Yeah.
We need more Love Island watchers and Farcaster.
So unfortunately, the person taking most of the questions is me, and I do not watch Love Island, at least as of now. But we do need to get more into that sort of like predictable content phase. And I think that the kind of people that are really going to want to answer Ponder polls, which for those who don't know are basically these easy mini contests where you vote on the option you think most people will think is the right answer, rather than the option that you think is the right answer. But I think getting into very like specific channels and like Farcaster itself tried to develop channels, and theirs is still there, although they don't really have the full exit plan, I would say right now. But appealing to people that have specific tastes, right, and giving them a kind of predictable type of content, I think is going to be really, really useful, both for us as Ponder, but also for Farcaster generally.
Ted, I love the fact that you brought up Love Island because, like, literally, whenever they had the world vote on like the recoupling,
Yes.
and then Hudda like got separated from Jeremiah, that actually would have been great if it was on Ponder because then like everyone could have just been like talking about it and kind of like chatting and like, okay, like why does Hudda suck, or like why is Jeremiah crazy, or like I think it's cool and just like kind of a silly way, like just to show like how it kind of like awesome.
We need a younger content generation.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you had one on like what's your favorite MMORPG? It was like RuneScape and like World of Warcraft, and I was like, yeah, I feel like maybe we're getting aged out a little bit.
Fortnite was not on there.
Yeah. Okay, so like TK, Colin, like we talked about how obviously like the tech is good, right? And it's optimizing for this like level and deep connection. Curious, like, because both of these ideas are like highly scalable, but like how do you, as you continue to build these businesses, like how do you plan to scale, like obviously like your total addressable market, and then also like maintaining this like level of like intimacy and connection?
Yeah, I mean, so one of the magical parts about Farcaster is because people can build all these different parts, all these different Legos that make up the whole, you have people like the Jira team that are building like these personalized feeds for individuals, right? Because all of that information is permissionless to access. So when you think about developing an app experience that you want, a billion people to use, obviously they're going to be all over the planet. They're not going to be thinking the same things. They're not going to be interested in the same type of content. But when you have a permissionless sort of social graph and you can see who everyone's friends are, we can start to just show them content that's from their friends or content from people that they'd liked content from before. And you can kind of formalize all of that and specify all of that in the context of the app, and then let those people kind of propagate the app with their friends, even in like private chats, right? You can send ponders in direct text with important tasks and send it to your group of friends and get them onboarded. And so you're still in your like cozy nook with your friends, right? But at scale, we should be developing a system where there are different regions on Earth that are answering different questions completely differently, right? And that's kind of our end game, is to be able to map out different sentiments in like Southeast Asia or in America or South America, wherever, right? And that's when it starts to get really, really interesting. But I think because we have these tools that are being developed by so many people who have this permissionless access to incredible data, we're going to be able to really curate things in a way we would never be able to if you're building other platforms. So again, the tools are absolutely incredible. I think they're like more powerful than they've any right to be at this stage of growth of the network. But I think the network's going to grow.
Yeah, and again, you have a platform that's running at any point in time, right? And there's a lot of things that we are doing with that or Linda at large that have more content creators come in, start creating content on their first dollar, sub 10 minutes. That's the aha moment that I think Farcaster can very beautifully deliver, is that, okay, the first task you have, you could ID or make your first step in like the first 10 minutes. Right? So there's a lot of these flywheels that could help us. But at the same point in time, yes, like you have to figure a way out where you could also help Farcaster to grow from where it is to like 10x. And the second way is where you probably have to outgrow all of permissionless social graphs, and you have to figure a place for yourself in a centralized world where people are like not giving you API access. So like the true massive leap for Noice has like both of these things. One is like largely short term, next 6 months, what can you do to get far more people on Farcaster active, talking about a lot of different things, right? Like how you can spin up like 50 channels like about say jazz or music or wine, it could be anything, right? Like you need to have diverse content. And at the same point in time, you have to keep thinking about, look, how am I going to do like 1 billion transactions in the next year? And that's a question that we're trying to answer. It's something we're thinking about, but in the meanwhile, our bets are on Farcaster and the Coinbase wallet.
For sure. I snuck this question in, Ted. I don't know if you saw this. Hopefully I got away with it. So obviously, like, everyone remembers when like Frames dropped, and it was like the craziest thing ever. Like Frames was super dope. It, like, I feel like there's like a mass exodus from Twitter onto Farcaster because of Frames. And I think also mini apps had a huge moment too. And it unlocked a ton of distribution for a lot of these builders. Kind of curious, like, what's next on the roadmap? Or if it's not like a net new product or feature rather, like, how do you think Frames or like mini apps could kind of evolve to continue to like accommodate like things like Colin and Tike are building?
Good question. In terms of like roadmap or like what's next, I think the team thinks a lot in like short-term sprints. So like even right now, Bruce been public about this. It's like, okay, we're leaning into like video content. So like how can we improve the video experience? I think it's, okay, Coinbase Wallet is launching the Farcaster feed within kind of their new app. How do we kind of like raise the stakes so like gets competitive? Oh, we heard they have a video feed. How can we improve our video feed? So that's like number one. It's like, okay, on the consumer part, like how do we continue increasing content? And I think that there's a lot of whiteboard space there. I think that a lot of us believe that kind of like this hypothesis that like software is content. I think we're seeing like AI generated videos. Those are getting better and better each day. What does that look like for AI generated apps and mini apps? I think that is nowhere near kind of like the level of sophistication that video is, but it would be really interesting to experiment on that part as well. And then in terms of the crypto side, like we've added tons of ecosystems. So a lot of people are like, oh, Farcaster is like built on Base, and we're like, no, it's actually on Optimism, but the wallet supports Base, and now we support Solana. We also support Nomad Testnet and Hyperliquid, and so there's tons that we're experimenting with, and it should really be like, okay, this is the easiest place to either like transact, like use crypto, whether you're a brand new user or whether you're like super savvy and have been using it for a while. So that's like what I would say the near term is, but I think always like the North Star is like how do we continue growing daily active users, and I think the number one kind of like goal of that is daily active users with like a meaningful wallet balance, because in order to participate in this ecosystem, it really means like transacting and like sharing value with the other people in the community.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, I see everyone's face. I think everyone's ready for the happy hour. I do want to open it up. For Q&A. So if anyone has a question, please raise your hand. I think Benji. Oh, here we go, Zane.
Nice.
My name's Nathan, head of Shields products. I'm curious from a Farcaster perspective, for each of y'all, what's been your favorite moment on the Farcaster network?
Wow. My favorite moments actually aren't online, they're in person. So I think it's really, like, we have a community-driven summit in the past 3 years. And I think just getting everyone together and the community really driving that, I think it kind of touches on the whole kind of ethos of connection and how do you continue driving sustainable growth. So those have been my favorite moments so far. There's a lot.
Yeah, that was going to be my answer too, actually. But there's some other online ones that I think were funny though. I mean, Dan attempting a quick technical way, posting that proudly, and having the entire world kind of say you should never click again was pretty spectacular. And just like sort of the ongoing memes that proliferate on the network at moments like that. Also, one of the, when we first launched Ponder, it was called Surveycaster back in the day. And the first question that we asked was like, there was this naming concern because we had Purple Down and Purple App, and some cultural people might recall this. And we had to solve that issue for people, and like our platform solved that issue for people, and that was a pretty kind of fulfilling moment, even though we didn't even have an app, and it was just like kind of a small thing. So there are a lot of moments where you just see the culture progressing and getting to the next stage that just kind of get around.
I have like a right answer and an honest answer, so I'm going to give you the honest answer.
Yes.
It's when there's only like very few places where you could have $1 million on your wallet come out of thin air by like literally like building a product that people like, them buying it, them selling it, them speculating on it, all happening on the same platform. So like the day I, for example, saw that we had this market cap and our Farcaster wallet has this much money, that's when I was just like, I don't think there's any platform on planet Earth who can probably say something like that. Right? We've had thousands of people talk about us, thousands of people have made money, yes, and all of those are like altruistic answers that I'd give to you. But like the honest, beautiful, the most highest of my Farcaster moments was when I saw internet capital markets come together with consumer social, with like each person partaking into it, with peer-to-peer micropayments, like and it all came together at this, like in that like one number. I could see why it exists and how it exists. So that was like, that's my high.
That's like that.
Well, in the team, we like look at the dashboards like every day, and everyone's like, "Wait, is this real?" Like we're like, "Is there something wrong with the dashboard?" And we're like, "No, that's real." So it was a big milestone for us too.
Yeah, there's no other place that's possible, right? Like, practically no other place where you have wallets and products and speculation. All of these things have they have big pillars of crypto, right? No other place where you can bring them together than in Farcaster.
I haven't had that experience yet.
Soon.
So obviously many apps have proliferated and will continue to do so, but how have you guys thought about app chains on Farcaster or Noice?
For us, I think that we want to support, I would say like any chain, we're chain agnostic. So you can see that we support Onchain. So when Crypto Game came out, you could mint your player NFT on Uniswap. And so I think as more and more apps develop their chains, and there's a lot to do on them, we'll 100% support them. And again, I think the whole point is like, users don't actually care what chain they're on at all. They just want to interact with cool experiences. And so as much as you can abstract that away for the user, that's great. I will say one learning that we already have is like, we've probably expanded to like 5 or 6 different ecosystems now. And even when you go into the wallet and you like try and say like receive assets, if you're sending it, you get like 6 different addresses. And for a normal user, they're gonna be like, what the heck is this? So I think that we learned from that, it's like, oh, you actually don't want to just like immediately go and expand to like 100 different ecosystems or chains. You need to really think about the user experience, otherwise it's going to be more confusing than less. So I think at first we were like, let's full steam ahead, and now we're like, oh, we learned a lot, user feedback, let's be more intentional, and like, if there's a really good app chain that says like, hey, we have all these experiences, they're top of class, like best in class, then it'll be like, okay, this is a no-brainer.
Yeah, I mean, the answer for us is that we want to like support any token on any chain to like change hands via content. Like Bezos the best place because Farcaster is dominated by it, but like as Farcaster grows, as it gets multiple chains and active users, you'll see like Noice allowing you to like set Solana token, Solana meme coins, or anything like Optimism that you could possibly like just dip to your audience.
Yeah, the last thing I'll add is like we're striving for chain analysis also, right? They're like Universal Grid is a great tool that we're implementing right now. Relay is another good one. So I think most app developers are thinking those terms, but not rushing towards solving all the problems of those.
Yeah, I can ask the next question. Thank you for the panel for it, as always. I think there's been a lot of discussions around what Farcaster could add, and by the way, I'm a very active feature proposer. I wonder what the feature do you think what Farcaster should remove from what it has today? Maybe feature could be anything, could be just open question.
I think it should remove passkeys from the onboarding flow. I think that onboarding, like crypto onboarding is still super convoluted, and if you're using any other social app out there, they're literally just asking for your email and a magic link, and I think with like thanks to Privy and Turnkey and other kind of providers like that today, we can also offer that. And right now, like I've onboarded so many people and they just like get stuck in a passkey thing or get stuck in this, and I'm just like, let's make it as easy as possible to just like get onto that. So that would be my answer.
It's kind of a tough one. The most annoying thing for me, I would say, are people that kind of fit in the spamming category. I don't know if that's a feature so much as just algo decision making, right? And kind of the way that people get bucketed in there. But this is an ongoing discussion with the Farcaster. It's a really difficult discussion because there are kind of legitimate people that look a little bit spammy, but they actually are legitimate. They just don't know what the fuck they're doing, frankly, on a social network. And then there are people that are entirely spammy, but look legitimate. So it's a really tough problem, but the thing that would be most useful is figuring out a way to adequately solve it. I think the team is like 85% solved it.
I don't actually think a lot about what they should remove, to be honest. I think everything's great, everything takes a great like time to like the shot. I think a lot more about like what should we do instead, like 10x our numbers, or what are the features that help us do that. And I think that's like these are both the things that are like make so much sense when I follow them for the first time ever. Right? Because I'm like, yeah, spam is an issue. I think that's an issue with like largely any social network, generally speaking, but because like there's billions of pieces and you've trained the algorithm so well over decades to understand who you are, you only see like the nice stuff. But like on Farcaster, it takes a while, right? Like I think as we grow with our users, that problem hopefully gets solved too. And the onboarding piece, like I'm sure you've suffered through it a lot. We just onboarded once and then we caught on. So I'm sure you see it, but like, yeah, we don't really think much about like what should they do, at least I don't.
Can I ask a follow-up question? So what would be that 10x feature?
Right, so like there's 3 ways there's 3 of them in my head. All 3 go to a different direction. One is completely towards how do you make this a place where anybody can earn their first crypto. That's A, right? That invites a lot of spam, invites a lot of creators, virtually reduces the barrier to earn crypto to a flat 0. There's a lot there, and and I think Noice is like at large pioneering that. The second is like for devs, right? Like how do you get 1,000 unique experiences like Pond or Noice and like 900 things that they get to think about? How do you incentivize them to like start building things here and just like give birth to new primitives, right? Like programmatic tipping wouldn't have existed on any other platform except Farcaster. Like it's fully possible only because of Farcaster. There's so many things there. Could you incentivize like a lot more devs? Could you reward them? Could you do something with them? And the third again is speculation, right? Like my opinion at large has been that speculation doesn't have to be social. Like me with my co-founders, like the last 6 months we spent building a trading client on top of Farcaster, so we know that there are some elements of it being social, but it's hard. But like how does Farcaster completely like embrace the trading and speculative actions that happen here? What are some features where you 10x speculation, right? Like, because that's like largely what crypto has been about. So these are these 3 directions that there's something in one of them, and I think I'm sure like they're thinking a lot about like what is the value prop that takes them dramatically upwards. And then all of these 3, once you decide which side you want to fight on or what is your core value prop, you come up with like 10 features that in 10 minutes. It's not going to be hard.
Yeah, I think we need to attract young people better. I don't think the platform does that very well. I think we kind of have this group of 25 to 45-year-olds, or it feels like time to time. So I think the feature that I would request is probably video, probably vertical video, some a better experience with vertical video, which one of our old developers is currently working on, actually. So anything that attracts young people, I think is important. The other thing that would be my feedback to the team, for example, brings back to them, is it's not very easy as an app developer to onboard someone to the Farcaster protocol in like 2 taps, right? So right now it's like driving to WordPress, or maybe it'll be Coinbase Vault in the future, but they kind of have to go through that cycle. I'd love to be able to just have people come to the Palmer web app, sign up, and I just automatically give them like the Farcaster protocol and FID, and then we're off to the races, and I can start sending messages, notifications, using all the tools that we have. But right now there isn't that capability. So when someone introduces like the world's best app that exists on Farcaster, it only exists on Farcaster, that's developed in all the Legos that live there, they need to have the opportunity to bring 5 million more people on themselves really easily without being full more client. So that's one of the core things that makes sense.
And just like the reason why there's so many things that are possible on Farcaster but not anywhere else is the reason why I don't personally think video content will work on Farcaster is because look, that's what 99% of the world is anyway doing. There's billions on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. They found their people, they found creators, they found everything possible there. Because these guys do not have a lot of flexibility as to like what new unique experience can we give anyway. But I think Farcaster has so many unique experiences that we'll come up with our own meta of probably like content consumption or something around content which is not going to be video, which is only possible because it's permissionless and there's wallets. That's at least my opinion. That you shouldn't follow.
I was going to say, like, if we knew what would 10x the users, we would be doing it. We don't know. I tend to agree with Tike that I don't think video will drive growth. It might help with retention, but I don't think it will drive growth. I think TikTok and Reels, YouTube Shorts, there's just really good content elsewhere, and I don't know if you can make like exclusive content to Farcaster that will drive people in that they're not going to be getting on other platforms.
Yeah.
So I do think it's important. I do think the one thing about young people that most people in crypto don't remember, because like we're used to getting like $10,000 airdrops, or your play money is actually like 20 grand, but like most young people, like actually $30 is meaningful to them. And so I think that's something that's really interesting. It's like, oh, I get to post on a social platform. So that's one. I think the other thing is, to your point of like, there's user-generated X, Y, and Z. Like every social platform has had user-generated something. So like, there's user-generated market, like Uniswap, user-generated markets. That was like the big unlock that people were like amazing. And I think Farcaster, like it could be user-generated, like fill in the blank. Is it kind of like vibe-coded apps? Like I think that's really exciting and we want to dig in there. But again, I don't know if the tool is there yet. But I think that's where it pulls in. It's like I think it would be like so exciting if I made a mini app and like vibe-coded a mini app and was like, hey guys, try this out, and then I end up getting rewarded and like make $600 from a mini app. Like that to me would feel actually so much cooler than like getting $600 for posting content. But that's a personal thing. I don't know if that's ubiquitous.
It's like those three things that I said, right? Like if creating never making money is what the value of Farcaster takes, then the first feature I think about is what are the 3 actions that a user does on their first session that help them on their first dollar. And then I would like try to make sure that thousands of people are just experiencing what it's like to earn your first crypto in your first session. It's super important. It's your first time opening the app and you've already made like $0.50 or probably like a cent or something. Like you've experienced it to an extent. Same for devs, like it could be that you've already experienced like mini apps during the onboarding process. Can it like would it make sense? I don't know. But can mini apps be embedded into the onboarding process and like be made fun to like help them understand what it's about? Like if whichever side you pick, like you will be able to come up with like a feature that's like an API as well. What's only one thing to like optimize for? And I think like time to earning your first dollar on Farcaster is something I'm super excited about. Or it's just like that's something we think a lot about at Noice about how do we solve for this.
Is there another question? Oh, yeah, 8 sound, okay.
Hey everyone. My question's around the Coinbase wallet that's about to come out. Obviously, it's probably going to be the first time you have a client that actually competes on a demand level besides the main client. So as app builders, like, how are you thinking about going after that cohort versus the Farcaster cohort? Are you thinking of changing the form factor of your mini app or your experience at all to go after the Coinbase cohort?
We're going to completely ditch Farcaster. So the Coinbase team has been really good and proactive in reaching out to people that are currently developing apps to make sure that everything's functioning properly when we transition over. So it will be a slightly different experience with the Coinbase app, and there's a little bit more that's going on there with like XMTP and kind of mini apps within that direct messaging as well. So we're sort of aware of that and thinking about different ways that we can adjust our product there. In the long run, I think a lot of the stuff that we're doing on Farcaster have done historically. Like we honor give people free votes, for instance, like giving them first dollar in the wallet is really important. So we love seeing sort of the money that's delivered to our users trend up over time. But I think a lot of those same practices we're going to make sense with the Coinbase wallet too. We're going to look at those consumers that is like slightly less crypto native, I would say, and just be aware of that type of person existing there. Coinbase wallet, I think, has a few million users. I'm not sure how many. So we basically just see it as an extension of the work that we're already doing. Luckily, there's not a lot that we need to change in terms of the app. I mean, not on we'll see. But yeah, the team there has been super proactive, and I don't think it's going to be a huge lift as an app developer. I think we're just going to gain kind of distribution. Maybe
For us, like the biggest and the only difference is that there's now 2 separate wallets that users are trying to use, right? Like that's about it. Farcaster wallet is separate and Coinbase wallet is separate. How do you like figure out if somebody uses both things, what does it look like? But there's a lot of nuance there, but otherwise the experience stays the same at large. Whatever we build here gets built there as a new feature always. Just barring the wallet address being different when you're sending your new file. So for us it's just that. And I think that is great. Coinbase wallet is great, like because like net everybody wins. That's my opinion. Is that everybody is likely going to hit a home run. Like if everybody comes together around this premise of look, like these are like these 3, 4, whether it's Zora, whether it's the Coinbase wallet app, or whether it's Farcaster, all are centered towards creating and coding. How do you join the forces? What is the best way for you all to figure a way where everybody wins? Because right now, like the ecosystem needs a win more than an individual client needing a win. So that's what even we are trying to like think and work on with every party possible.
I think that just as like a user, someone who's intellectually curious about some of this, I'm just excited because it will have its own algorithm. And so I think for at least Noice, like it could just unleash and like surface a whole new group of people who end up earning and transacting because candidly, like I think that the Farcaster algorithm is like very self-reinforcing. And I think like it's the same users like interacting with each other. A lot of them have already been on the platform. I think they have a Dunbar number of like, oh, I can only interact with like 150 people, and it's kind of the same 150 people. And so I'm really excited that Coinbase will have a brand new algorithm, and so you can kind of hopefully surface like new communities and new ecosystems within that might be more creative or more degen or more like X, Y, and Z that we're not getting on Farcaster right now. So I'm just like from a data perspective, I'm like, wow, I hope I wish it's here now.
In tandem though, do you think that Farcaster would work on improving like its social algorithm as well, or instead of like just like offloading to Coinbase wallet?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just assuming like when Coinbase Wallet probably started training their own algorithm, they almost had to like untrain it from our algorithm because like the users that were in their app are interacting to what our algorithm is showing them. And I think we'll continue to iterate on their algorithm. So like recently, this is something that I've been saying since I like joined, was like the best thing about TikTok is you can get like guaranteed 200 people see your content, no matter if you have 0 followers or 1 million followers. And like new user distribution is actually the #1 priority for anybody joining a social app. And like I can do that manually and amplify, but that's not scalable. And so I think they're starting to iterate around like, okay, how do we amplify or surface new food users so that more people can find them? And so we are iterating, but I think having Coinbase Wallet is kind of like data to inform what we're doing. We can only get better together. Yeah.
As long as it's not the Twitter algorithm, I'll be happy. Do we have any other questions? All right, let's clap it up. Yeah, clap it up.